When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. They're the home of the #1 checkout on the planet and the not-so-secret Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales happening. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds and Skims use. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/start selling. All lowercase. Go to shopify.com/start selling to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/start selling.
Welcome to LitReading. I'm Don McDonald. My, how times have changed. Just over a century ago, women were still fighting for the right to vote, and the prevailing belief among men was that they were too emotional and fragile to do so. Our next story takes place, ironically, in a fictional Britain in the wake of a great plague. Join me as we travel back to a very different world in Hermann the Irascible by Saki. The story of the Great Weep. It was in the second decade of the 20th century, after the Great Plague had devastated England, that Hermann the Irascible, nicknamed also the Wise, sat on the British throne. The mortal sickness had swept away the entire royal family unto the third and fourth generations, and thus it came to pass that Hermann XIV of Saxe-Drachen-Wachtelstein, who had stood 30th in the order of succession, found himself one day ruler of the British dominions within and beyond the seas. He was one of the unexpected things that happen in politics, and he happened with great thoroughness. In many ways, he was the most progressive monarch who had sat on an important throne. Before people knew where they were somewhere else. Even his ministers, progressive though they were by tradition, found it difficult to keep pace with his legislative suggestions. "As a matter of fact," admitted the Prime Minister, "we are hampered by these votes for women creatures. They disturb our meetings throughout the country, and they try to turn Downing Street into a sort of political picnic ground." "They must be dealt with," said Hermann. "Dealt with?" said the Prime Minister. "Exactly so. But how?" "I will draft you a bill," said the King, sitting down at his typewriting machine, "enacting that women shall vote at all future elections." Shall vote, you observe, or to put it plainer, must. Voting will remain optional as before for male electors, but every woman between the ages of 21 and 70 will be obliged to vote, not only at elections for Parliament, county councils, district boards, parish councils, and municipalities, but for coroners, school inspectors, church wardens, curators of museums, sanitary authorities, police court interpreters, swimming bath instructors, contractors, choir masters, market superintendents, art school teachers, cathedral vergers, and other local functionaries whose name I will add as they occur to me. All of these offices will become elective, and failure to vote at any election falling within her area of residence will involve the female elector in a penalty of £10. Absence, unsupported by an adequate medical certificate, will not be accepted as an excuse. Pass this bill through the two houses of Parliament and bring it to me for signature the day after tomorrow. From the very outset, the compulsory female franchise produced little or no elation, even in circles which had been loudest in demanding the vote. The bulk of the women in the country had been indifferent or hostile to the franchise agitation, and the most fanatical suffragettes began to wonder what they had found so attractive in the prospect of putting ballot papers into a box. In the country districts, the task of carrying out the provisions of the new act was irksome enough. In the towns and cities, it became an incubus. There seemed no end to the elections. Laundresses and seamstresses had to hurry away from their work to vote, often for a candidate whose name they hadn't heard before and whom they selected at haphazard. Female clerks and waitresses got up extra early to get their voting done before starting off to their places of business. Society women found their arrangements impeded and upset by the continual necessity for attending the polling stations, and weekend parties and summer holidays became gradually a masculine luxury. As for Cairo and the Riviera, they were possible only for genuine invalids or people of enormous wealth, for the accumulation of 10-pound fines during a prolonged absence was a contingency that even ordinarily wealthy folk could hardly afford to risk. It was not wonderful that the female disenfranchise agitation became a formidable movement. The No Votes for Women League numbered its feminine adherents by the million. Its colors, citron and old Dutch madder, were flaunted everywhere, and its battle hymn, "We don't want to vote," became a popular refrain. As the government showed no signs of being impressed by peaceful persuasion, more violent methods came into vogue. Meetings were disrupted, ministers were mobbed, policemen were bitten, and ordinary prison fare rejected. And on the eve of the anniversary of Trafalgar, women bound themselves in tears up the entire length of the Nelson Column so that its customary floral decoration had to be abandoned. Still, the government obstinately adhered to its conviction that women ought to have the vote. Then, as a last resort, some women hit upon an expedient which it was strange that no one had thought of before. The Great Weep was organized. Relays of women, 10,000 at a time, wept continuously in the public places of the metropolis. They wept in railway stations, in tubes and omnibuses, in the National Gallery, at the Army and Navy stores, in St. James Park, at ballad concerts, at Prince's, and in the Burlington Arcade. The hitherto unbroken success of the brilliant farcical comedy Henry's Rabbit was imperiled by the presence of drearily weeping women in stalls and circle and gallery, and one of the brightest divorce cases that had been tried for many years was robbed of much of its sparkle by the lachrymose behavior of a section of the audience. "What are we to do?" asked the Prime Minister, whose cook had wept into all the breakfast dishes and whose nursemaid had gone out crying quietly and miserably to take the children for a walk in the park. "There is a time for everything," said the King. "There is a time to yield. Pass a measure through the two houses depriving women of the right to vote, and bring it to me for the royal assent the day after tomorrow." As the minister withdrew, Hermann the Irascible, who was also nicknamed the Wise, gave a profound chuckle. "There are more ways of killing a cat than by choking it with cream," he quoted. "But I'm not sure," he added, "that it's not the best way." While the world still has issues with sexism, the past 100 years have undoubtedly brought dramatic changes. Saki was the nom de plume of British author H. Munro, who was a prolific short story writer around the turn of the 20th century. His wit, insight, and style are unmistakable and incredibly enjoyable, even if the subject is a bit dated. Thanks for listening to Lit Reading, and please do me a favor. If you like what you hear, share it with your friends and acquaintances, even if you don't run into them personally. Share it on Facebook, through your online conversations and the like, and please consider leaving a review at Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening. I'm Don McDonald.
It's James and Fuhad from Shits and Gigs podcast, and we're here to talk about Boost Mobile.
Offering reliable nationwide coverage backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. Love your service or get your money back. No questions asked.
Brother, you know how it goes. Obviously, I'm on one provider, you're on another provider.
Yes,
sometimes I have good signal, you have bad signal, you have bad signal, I have good signal, and I get stressed and I think, shall I change? Is it worth changing? Is it going to make it better? I don't know. I've been with my provider for a long time.
Same.
It's anxiety-inducing and I don't want the hassle. Well, guys and girls, here's the twist. Boost Mobile gives you the same nationwide coverage and network speeds that you're already used to for way less money.
That's right. Boost Mobile gives you unlimited plans starting at just $25 a month. No price hikes, no contracts, no multi-line faff. Just solid coverage and proper value.
And if you're sitting there thinking, bruv, this sounds too good to be true, don't worry. You've got a 30-day money-back guarantee. Try it risk-free, and if you don't love it, you get your service fees back. There are plenty of benefits when you switch to Boost Mobile. Together with their roaming partners, Boost Mobile covers 99% of the US population. 5G speeds not available in all areas.
So, whether you're scrolling, streaming, or just lost in a group chat, you're covered.
Bottom line, Boost Mobile gives you the freedom to save money without sacrificing coverage, and no one's locking you into anything.
Visit your nearest Boost Mobile store or find them online at boostmobile.com.
That's boostmobile.com. Reliable service, proper coverage, and no stress.
What's it like to care for someone who's sick? To wait for answers, to hope for healing. These are the moments our nation's healthcare teams and their patients face every single day. And it's why we do what we do. We're Siemens Healthineers, and we pioneer breakthroughs in healthcare for everyone, everywhere. Across the country, from rural communities to busy cities, our medical imaging, therapy, and laboratory solutions help providers deliver care that can be smarter, faster, and more precise. With more than 17,000 employees across the United States, we're driving innovations that support healthcare teams, strengthen systems, and truly change people's lives. Because for us, it's about more than technology, more than innovation. It's a promise, built for generations. Siemens Healthineers.